program today. This is just the first part. Don't worry, we have a second part. So, considering what happened in Davao last Friday, uh, we deemed it wise to have two parts today. But as they say, bombings, explosions, and terrorist activities are no longer new to Filipinos across the country. The latest of which took place last Friday, where 14 people died and about 60 plus were injured. Sad to say, this was unexpected, but we'd like to find out what really transpired and what needs to be done. Because last week we talked about ISIS and threats from terrorist groups, but last Friday there was this incident, unfortunate incident. So this morning we have with us Colonel Ed Arevalo, the spokesman and the chief of the Public Information Office of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. He's representing the Chief of Staff, General Bong Visaya, who is still in Davao. And we also have with us Colonel Benji Hao, the Chief of the Public Affairs Office of the Philippine Army, and Dr. Stephen Cutler, former FBI Station Chief in Manila, who's now a businessman but has remained to be a good security analyst. So let's find out their views and opinions about what transpired in Davao. From the armed forces, the president has already declared the state of lawlessness. How does that sound to you at the armed forces of the Philippines, being a lawyer that you are? Can we have the microphone, please?
Thank you. But first of all, Melo, allow me to greet you happy birthday. Happy good morning. Of course, to Colonel Benji Hao, the Chief of Army Public Affairs Office, and Dr. Cutler. Of course, it's a pleasure to be here. In so far as the Armed Forces of the Philippines is concerned with regard to the declaration of the state of lawless violence, to us, it is very much part within the power of the Commander-in-Chief, his calling out power under the Constitution. And to us, it means that we have to be at the forefront of the fight to prevent to prevent and suppress lawless violence. This means to us a call for us to be present in the streets, to join the Philippine National Police in its vigorous implementation of security procedures in order to prevent occurrence or future occurrence of similar incidents or a follow-up of the incident that has just happened. To the armed forces, it means a call for us to be more actively involved with the local government officials, local government units, in ensuring that these agencies are doing the steps necessary in order to prevent occurrence of similar incidents in their respective AOR. It also meant the declaration of full alert of all units of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, specifically the unified commands of Eastern Mindanao, Western Mindanao, and National Capital Region.
Given such a situation, will it entail leave cancellations? Those who are enjoying their furloughs will have to be recalled?
Yes, it necessarily has to be so. As a matter of fact, by the declaration of the full alert of the military, we require all our personnel 100% their presence in our camps, especially those that are covered by the full alert status. While there were three areas or unified commands that were specifically tasked by our Chief of Staff, General Ricardo Bisaya, to be on full alert, he is giving leeway or he is giving the authority to the other unified commanders to elevate the degree of alert or the level of alert in the respective AORs depending upon the situations obtaining in their areas. So even those who are on leave, especially the ones that are just enjoying in a manner of as a matter of policy privileges, these are definitely canceled. And our people understands this because as security members of the security forces, it is incumbent upon us to be present on call, especially in times like this.
Okay. What about the Philippine Army? Colonel Benji Hao, tell us, how is it? What information have you gathered so far?
What I did this morning is I tried to call all my public affairs officers nationwide, and I tried to ask them what is happening there, and most of them, almost all of them, said they have a meeting today with the Philippine National Police and the local government units. So practically, this state of lawlessness or lawless violence, what is happening right now is our troops on the ground are now coordinating with the local government units. They are working on the Peace and Order Council platform. They're asking what other specific roles that the military can do, particularly the Philippine Army, to make sure that peace and order will remain in our country. So that is what is happening right now, and I think that's good. I think, however, we are telling them that we're telling the public that there will be some checkpoints. It will cause some delays to some movements, but we are also asking the understanding of our people because this is necessary in order for us to achieve peace and order, in order to prevent those terrorist activities.
Yeah, how many people are we talking about? Your
When,
components?
when we talk about the Philippine Army, we're talking about our major units. We're talking about around 85,000 people distributed all over the Philippines. I talked to 10 infantry divisions this morning. I tried to ask them what are the the changes that they observe. Again, they're still in the process of coordinating with the Peace and Order Councils.
Very good, very well. Dr. Cutler, how do you look at what happened in Davao? We were just here last week.
It bothers me in the sense that we're not real clear just yet on who the exact perpetrators are. The Abu Sayyaf group says we did it, then the Abu Sayyaf group says no, we didn't do it, it was somebody else, one of our allied groups. The NPA has blamed the United States. Then we have other people saying that it's actually drug dealers that are trying to set up and distract the government. We're not real clear just yet. What I do trust is the Philippine National Police and the EOD people from the AFP to figure out exactly what blew up, and from that then figure out who it was that is responsible. Unfortunately, those kinds of forensic examinations take a little bit of time. I've worked with those people before, the Philippine Bomb Data Center and other groups, and have a great deal of faith in their abilities, but it just takes time. It's not something that they can churn out just in a couple of hours. But I am concerned that we don't have a real good idea just yet.
Okay. Colonel Arevalo, what have your people in Mindanao reported so far to the General Headquarters?
So far, the Armed Forces of the Philippines is in a support role with the Philippine National Police. However, as at this morning, we have already heard specific findings as regards the cause of the blast. The Philippine National Police said it was an IED, and the one that exploded is an 81 millimeter mortar round. But as I was saying, the PNP is the lead agency in the investigation. They were the ones whom we are expecting to get accurate information from. The Armed Forces of the Philippines in a support role, meaning right at the very minutes after the blast, the Armed Forces of the Philippines is already there together with our PNP counterparts. And we are also helping in our way in the investigation by sharing information. And that was what we gathered so far. And you were true, Dr. Cutler, when you said it wasn't yet determined as to who could probably be the perpetrator. But be that as it may, whether it is the Abu Sayyaf or these are by way of because the police are also looking on the angle of um, drug drug lords doing this as well, because they are also a suspect group, and also a group of misgruntled businessmen in Davao City. I was there with the Chief of Staff together with the Secretary of National Defense and its counterpart uh, in the regional meeting for security, or regional PPOC, Peace and Order Council meeting, and in that meeting, these are the things that surfaced so far. Um, what is important for us to hear, probably, in behalf of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, that your armed forces is adequately tasked. They were given a specific information. We already have beefed up our forces in these areas where there are um, the declaration of heightened alert in our areas, and definitely there will be checkpoints. There will be increased visibility of our soldiers, and we would like to enlist the support of the public. We would like to enlist the support of the public because we are only too many. We cannot be in all places, in all locations at all times. We need the active participation of our people. Active participation in the sense that, as this was also discussed in that Regional Peace and Order Council 11 meeting, it is very important for our people to be extra vigilant, especially in this extraordinary time. They have to be actively participating with the local government, with the Philippine National Police, with the Armed Forces of the Philippines. If they have to be paranoid, in a sense that they should be, because they should just be looking about everywhere, be very vigilant. If there are anything, you see bags unattended or things of that sort, they should be able to inform the nearest security forces or government agencies so that it will be addressed accordingly.
All right.
If they see suspicious people moving around, if they see new faces in the block, for example, they should call the attention, or at least just report what they observed to the local civil authorities. And if they happen to hear any news or rumors or any of that sort, don't just put it up in social media. Don't just announce it to media. Don't just circulate the news. Call the attention of local government officials, local government agencies, for us to validate this information. And you have already done your part by merely observing, monitoring, and reporting what you see to local civil authorities. Let us not create panic. Let us not circulate malicious news. Let us not speculate, because at these times when people are already quite afraid as to what is happening, we would be helping each other a lot by just trying to be vigilant, be actively participative in reporting what we observe.
All right. Very well. Now, let me ask Dr. Cutler and Colonel Howe. Who among the Filipinos would know how to create an IED? Because I find this strange because not all of us, I am an advanced ROTC graduate. I know how to dismantle, but I wouldn't know how to come up with an IED. Colonel Howe and Dr. Cutler, please.
Let me first answer from the ground. He's going to answer from the science. First, based from military information, we heard before that, again, I'll be straight, this is not new. The New People's Army trained some of the Muslim rebels about these things during that time when I was still there. But at the same time, look at the internet. I was talking to a lot of friends from Mindanao, young friends from the Mindanao. They told me, hey sir, everything is online. But I was talking to them, I was telling them about drugs. But again, most of the information right now are online. Some of them are experimenting. There are so many young guys right now. I was assigned in Central Mindanao. I saw so many young guys experimenting on things that not normally used, not normally experimented by them. Practically, these are the main source of. There are also some guys who are trained in other countries. When they return here, they're capable of doing that. But on our concern, on the Philippine Army concern, the NPAs were the primary source of all these things. Remember, they're still using landmines right now in their way of fighting. Lucky for us all right now that ceasefire is working. We're glad that it is working.
Dr. Cutler, from your end.
Well, we know that the various people in the South have used 81 millimeter mortar rounds for a number of years. It's not that difficult for the, what I'll call the foreign fighters, foreign trainers who have been coming to the Philippines for probably at least 15 to 20 years, to have brought this information in with them and to have trained and then practice in real circumstances. So I'm actually not surprised that it was a mortar round. Those are relatively, they're not easy to find, but they're not that difficult to find in the South, whether it's unexploded ordnance or stolen or purchased from other places and then imported in or smuggled in. It's not that difficult to get.
Okay, but Colonel Howe, what's the percentage of these mortars that we use that end up duds? Because we may have a problem with the supply.
Yes, I don't have the exact data on that. When I was assigned there in Central Mindanao, I used to experience also IED using mortar rounds. But again, we don't have exact data on how many were duds. But right now, what I can assure you that our current mortar rounds, we have the best rounds right now. They're now all we haven't heard of any duds thing. But in the previous wars, the previous battles that we did, again, siguro, maybe those were the source. But honestly, I don't have the figures.
Okay, I just got a text message from the Commission on Higher Education. There is a forum scheduled in Davao by September 30. The question is, would it be safe to do it in Davao? Colonel Arevalo.
Well, I think the best person to answer that will be the local chief executives in Davao. But if I may say this, during that Region 11 Peace and Order Council meeting, the consensus was continue what the scheduled activities were. As a matter of fact, some city mayors there present had the evening of that afternoon when we were meeting, hours after that explosion, were determined to continue their activities lined up for that evening. The reason being, it is to the advantage and the interest of the local government to show that they are not cowed by this incident, to show that it is business as usual, and to stop, to prevent or postpone activities already scheduled is tantamount to being terrorized by these terrorist groups that could have perpetrated the act. So the bottom line is, their sentiment is to continue with the scheduled activities and just be vigilant, be watchful, and be involved in ensuring that security is everybody's concern, not just of the PNP and the AFP.
Yeah, this may be classified, but would you also be fielding your personnel in civilian? You know, whether they're in civilian, if they have that haircut, then they're known to be with the military, right?
If it will at all make our people safe, it is good for them to know that whether we have incidents like this or not, your military personnel, our intelligence operatives are just around us. They are observing and helping and working together with other agencies of government in ensuring just that, the security and peace in our communities. I think one important thing that we are actually asking to have or to know is who really did this dastardly act. There have been already some insinuations, there have been some opinions that have been aired as to who really could have perpetrated this. But it may not really matter who exactly did this. What remains is the fact that this was perpetrated in a major city. It has victimized a lot of people. It had killed and injured a lot of people. We already knew about what was the origin of the blast, and there has been pronouncements already from the chief executive that there is a great likelihood that the ongoing operations against the Abu Sayyaf group in Sulu might trigger diversionary tactics on part of the Abu Sayyaf group, who is now experiencing the massive combat operations that have been ongoing so far against their group. As a matter of fact, information received from our commander, Joint Task Force Sulu, General Arnel de la Vega, says that the Abu Sayyaf group has splintered into smaller groups, trying to evade and elude our forces that are now chasing them in Sulu.
Yeah. The question I asked the reason for the question is, we'd like to find out how responsive are we to such a situation? Because if I were a tourist who came into Manila this morning, I would take the first plane out of Manila because Philippine Star said, beware of Abu Sayyaf reprisals. You know, I don't know whether there has to be some management in the kind of news that we have today. But I'm definitely not in favor of censorship. Dr. Cutler, how do you look at the screaming headlines?
Well, I think the responses that the embassies of the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia have put out so far are measured and appropriate for their citizens. Basically, they're saying at this point in time, unless you have a real strong reason to go to Mindanao, stay out of Mindanao for now, because we're not really sure of what's going on in that area. And I think that's appropriate for foreigners to think about those kinds of things. But I think we also need then to make sure that we're letting foreigners know the truth about what's going on here. For example, in Metro Manila, should we be more alert? Well, of course we should be more alert. But it's also not something where we need to take shelter in a basement someplace and never go out. We need to be alert. And I think that that's something that we're not able to communicate well with the rest of the world, these nuances. They don't realize that Davao and Zamboanga are 3 to 4 hours flight time away from Metro Manila. They don't understand that it isn't, it's not the London metropolitan area. It's not the Paris metropolitan area. So they don't understand the distances, and they don't understand how difficult it is for threat people from Zamboanga or Tawi-Tawi to come into the Metro Manila area without being seen and without being reported. I think those nuances, we need to be careful from a government perspective, but even more so from a media perspective on how those nuances are reported and put across to the international crowd.
Very well. Gentlemen, let me ask you categorically, how strong and how big is this Abu Sayyaf that they can do such activities in the other portions of Mindanao? Colonel Arevalo, please give us a briefing.
Before the operation started, or the series of encounters occurred between the Abu Sayyaf group and the armed forces of the Philippines, our Joint Task Force Sulu in particular, the tally that we have on record about regular members of the Abu Sayyaf are around 481. That was before the start or the series of clashes between government troops and the Abu Sayyaf. But what we do not have an exact accounting of are the number of sympathizers, the number of the so-called force multiplier, the sympathizers and supporters, and even those they now refer to as forced recruits. I've been mentioning about this new scheme of forced recruits just to illustrate how the Abu Sayyaf group can come up with new ways and means in order to entice supporters. Those people who go up to the mountain to watch over the kidnapped victims of the Abu Sayyaf are being videographed together with the kidnapped victims. These people who go up to the mountains for on the lure of free meal and some allowances are the moment they get videographed together with the kidnapped victims, they can no longer go back to their families the moment they want to rejoin their families because the Abu Sayyaf members were threatening that they're going to show the video they took to the PNP and to the AFP, and that would indicate that they are indeed regular members of the Abu Sayyaf. So this forces them to stay with the Abu Sayyaf. So what we do not have an exact number of are the so-called force multipliers.
Okay. Do you have any idea as to their weapons?
We don't have exact idea. Well, we have, but what we can say for now was just due to the ransom payments that they have been receiving for many years ago, they were able to buy weapons that may not necessarily be better than the weapons of our armed forces, but we could say that it could be in parity with some of the armaments that our members of the AFP possess.
Quickly,
Yes, please.
Melo, I'm sure they have weapons, but they don't have tanks, they don't have artillery, and they don't have planes. That's
Of course.
the best thing I can tell
That's
you.
for sure. But let me ask you, Colonel Howe, do you have any idea as far as the recoveries that you've made, as to the weapons, the source of the weapons? Which country have they sourced the weapons? Where did they buy them?
I cannot talk about that here. What
okay.
what I can tell you is their advantage. Look, they're very strong in Sulu because they're from there. But bring them anywhere else, they will be different. Look, right now they're running. Right now they can get inside with the different communities. That's why no major encounter since August 29, because really they can fit in many communities. That's how strong they are. But again, we are there. We are pursuing them now.
Thank you.
If I may add, I have been emphasizing this in many media interviews that I had. They might have the initial advantage of the terrain that definitely has a toll, because if you are aware of the intricacies and the shortcuts in the area, especially the obtaining terrain, vegetation in that area, then you definitely have that advantage. But that would not be for long. Our soldiers who have received superior training, we are sure that in due time they will be able to surmount this challenge. Aside from that, we were saying that the armed forces has the advantage of having reinforcements, having better medical attention that is ready for them. We have, as Colonel Howe said, we have tanks, we have aircrafts that could provide close air support, although there are instances that this cannot be well taken advantage of. For example, close air support cannot be made available if the canopies of the trees are too thick that our airplanes cannot penetrate. But we have artillery aided with our experts on the ground who could provide accurate targeting that could somehow mitigate that particular difficulty. But I do not want to sound too reassuring. Remember that there are small numbers now, according to General De La Vega, the commander of Joint Task Force Sulu. That's why we're not having the engagements that we had in the past days, because they are on the run. In my interviews, I've been saying that these engagements that Joint Task Force Sulu is having with the Abu Sayyaf is actually an opportunity. Why is it an opportunity? Because the smaller group that they are, that they can splinter very easily, they could move around very easily, and yet our armed forces are able to locate them, is an opportunity for us to have an engagement with them. Right now, the latest information provided to us from Sulu was that there are no major encounters because what they were seeing are small, very few persons of the Abu Sayyaf who seemingly are trying to locate where our soldiers are so that they can evade any armed engagement with our soldiers. But sooner or later, we will have again that opportunity to have an engagement with them, and we will able to, we're hopeful that we were able to accomplish the mission given to us by the Commander-in-Chief.
Thank you. Dr. Cutler, coming from the outside looking in about the Abu Sayyaf, what are your thoughts about the group before we open the floor to our colleagues from the media?
Well, to follow on a discussion that we had about the Abu Sayyaf's reported alliance with Daesh or the Islamic State, I think this incident demonstrates that such a discussion is somewhat academic. I don't think it makes much difference. It's interesting, it's of note, and it's fun to sit around a breakfast table and talk about it, but the Abu Sayyaf is quite, if the Abu Sayyaf is responsible for the Davao bombing, and I say if, because we don't have proof of that yet, but if they are responsible, it shows that they are quite capable of killing people on their own. They don't need Daesh. They're quite capable of conducting their own operations. They don't need Daesh for that. They wave a black flag, but it really makes no practical difference. The idea is that we here in the Philippines need to address the Abu Sayyaf in whatever splinter groups it may break into. We need to do something about that as a whole of society. And that's where the two colonels have both mentioned about people working with the government to try to stop these bombings, the killings, and the kidnappings. It cannot be the military by itself. It cannot be the police by itself. It requires the whole of society and whole of government to work together.
Okay. Now, I have to ask you this because I remember it was last year when we attended a briefing. It was more of an interview with the Chinese media, and Yan Fangsu is still with us this morning. And it was the mayor of Manila we talked with, Mayor Joseph Estrada, who said that what brought him down from power was his all-out war against the MILF. And he showed us an array of weapons allegedly confiscated from Camp Abu Bakal, which, according to Mr. Estrada, were sourced from the United States. And when we asked him, how did these weapons get into the Philippines? And Mr. Estrada mentioned a third country which was responsible. So could it also be possible that people like the Abu Sayyaf can buy armaments from abroad and have it sourced through another country?
That's possible, and that the colonel mentioned a couple of minutes ago about the money that has been paid to the Abu Sayyaf for whether it's called ransom or for per diem or for the food and lodging expenses. It doesn't matter. The point is that they're getting money, and that's where I think that they are smart enough. In that sense, the connection to Daesh may be of interest, but they had connections on the international level, and they have been well experienced in smuggling for many, many years. They're well experienced in dealing with other countries. They have good experience in getting whatever they need. This comes back then to the trafficking in narcotics or the trafficking in precursor chemicals. It's not that difficult to move this stuff around on the high seas, even by small boat. They're used to dealing with watercraft. They're used to dealing with these kinds of people. So it's not that unusual. What I would suggest is that the problem that I have with what they call this all-out war that was done earlier is the fact that it relied almost entirely on military force. That cannot be, and that's one of the, in fact, I think that's one of the good lessons for the world. Colombia saw that, the United States saw it in Iraq and Afghanistan. You cannot win these kinds of wars by relying strictly on military power.
Now, what if some local officials are in cahoots with these lawless elements?
Well, and actually we have found that in other countries as well. In Colombia, in Iraq, and Afghanistan, we also see tremendous corruption. And I won't point fingers at any particular local government unit, but that just makes it almost impossible then for us to bring order to an area when it's not in the best interest of a local official. That's what is now changing in the country of Colombia, now that the government, with the assistance of the United States, has actually reached an agreement with what's known as FARC, which is the narco-traffickers and narco-terrorists. They've actually reached an agreement. We've seen that in some other areas as well. Only through that and getting rid of some of these corrupt public officials at the local level will we be able to bring peace and order back into those areas.
Okay. We'll open the floor to our friends from the media. Please introduce yourself and the entity you come from.
Tracy Cabrera from Hataw. I've read The Art of War, and we realize that warfare is not won by equipment nor modern armies, but strategy, political strategy. It encompasses that. Now, the Philippines has been a failure in its war against NPA and the Muslim rebels. For six decades, it has been fighting the NPA without any apparent victory, except it will only stop when there is peace talks. Now, my question is, I've recently learned about a tripartite, trilateral agreement between Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines concerning the Malacca Strait to secure the area.
The border.
Yes.
Okay, common
Now,
area.
I understand it has not really started because the Philippines has failed to send a representative. Why does it take so long for the country to put up a representative from the DND?
You're referring to the Secretary of National Defense who failed to attend the meeting, but I guess everything is in order now.
These are transnational crimes, terrorism.
Yes,
And
of
we
course.
need to have security. We don't have enough security forces. We realize that we don't have the naval capability. But
Okay, let them answer. Yes, please. To whom?
from Colonel Arevalo, please.
I think we are on the right track in that particular regard. It is not that we are not aware as to address. We agree with you that the wars like insurgency cannot be won by armaments alone. We also know that there's a need for us to address its causes. That's why in the recent years, if you may have observed, we are already talking about our campaign plan Bayanihan, which is actually intended to involve a whole of nation approach in solving this problem, in defeating insurgency. So we already have changed or altered or modified our campaign plans.
What I'm asking is, why hasn't the Philippines sent a representative for the agreement to?
Jakarta
Yes.
meeting. Okay. Well, I guess it's not within his purview. He can only speak for the armed forces of the Philippines, but not for the Department of National Defense. More questions from the floor, please. Please.
Ernie Reyes po sa interaction.com ng TV5. Hindi naman ako ganito ka pa.
Sige, sige. Tuloy mo na, kapatid. Tuloy mo na.
Hello. Sabi nyo kanina, sir, 81mm mortar were used sa Davao Blast. Saan nanggaling yun? Where did it came from? We all know only the military has those kind of weapons. So, paano nangyari nagkaroon sila nun? Yeah, yes, sir.
As Dr. Cutler mentioned earlier, it's not difficult. It's difficult, but it's not also that easy to get that. There could be other reasons for them to have it, and that is part of the investigation. As to where it is placed, I was saying earlier that the AFP is only in the support role with the PNP. We would like them to be the one to give all answers relative to the investigation being conducted with regard to the explosion.
Second follow-up. Some sectors says there's a failure of intelligence. Can you react on that, please?
Even the president said, the commander-in-chief said, there is no failure of intelligence.
Could it be possible that this 81 millimeter bomb was sourced from the Bote Bakal? Minsan kasi yung mga bakal-bakal na ganyan, akala natin bakal pero bomba pala.
Melo, remember meron mga World War II vintage bombs pa na nare-recover ngayon eh. So again, maybe these are the sources yan. I mean, mahirap sabihin talaga eh. But yung possibility na wala na bang makikitang 81mm mortar na nahukay or no. Remember in Mindanao, there are so many battles na nangyari dyan eh. Maybe napulot din nila doon or maybe galing sa ibang bansa. But again, even World War II bombs na-recover pa hanggang ngayon.
Hindi ba natin nabibilang yung duds? Yung percentage nung pumuputok at nung hindi pumuputok?
May proseso naman tayo dyan kapag ka nakakaroon.
Ernie, pakinggan mo ha, dahil yung mga hindi pumuputok na bomba. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
We also have a process of accounting those shells that we fired or those mortars rounds that we fire, but that is insofar as we do theoretically, because the moment you fire it, you may not be able to really locate where this landed. It's possible, as it was being asked and it was answered by Colonel Howe earlier. It is really difficult for us to determine where exactly these are.
Di ba protocol yon sa military na pagka hindi pumutok yung mortars, automatic yung i-recover? Para katulad nun, parang ang nangyayari, sabi nga ni Colonel Howe kanina, you train some Muslim rebels to do these things. And galing sa atin yung mortar 81mm na yun. So we train and give them weapons to kill us.
Let me clarify. Clarify lang. Hindi ko
Yun ang
sinabi-
gusto ko i-clarify nyo kanina kasi sabi nyo kanina you train Muslim rebels to do these things, EID or whatever.
We train. We do not train them.
Ay, you do.
We do not train them. No.
What about the integris?
Integris? What? Ay, integris, sir. Pag integris sila, sundalo sila. They are soldiers.
Kampi nyo na.
Soldiers yan. We treat them as regular soldiers. Pero yung,
Okay.
when you said, I'm training the rebels for, I did not
Yung
say
former
that.
rebels pala, yung mga, parang may sinabi kay kanina eh.
Wala naman.
wala ba?
Sorry. Let
Sorry.
me correct that. Categorically, I did not mention that we're training rebels for ano.
Hindi ba nadinig ko kanina eh.
Kape ka muna, kape.
Hindi, wala ko sa. Tinatanong kanina, sino ba nang galit? May mga rebelde kasi na tinrain sa ibang bansa na bumalik dito.
Okay.
Pagbalik dito, marunong nang mag-bombing, di ba? Yung NPAs ngayon, NPA rebels, di ba, hindi na ginagamit nila. Mga paputok, mga IED. That's what I said. I did not say we
IED.
train them. We do not train them.
This-
But what's ano? The situation is this. Pag may pumutok at alam namin na dun at hindi sumabog, ang SOP talaga is i-clear yung area. But hindi mo naman talaga makikita kung lahat-lahat you cannot perfect it kung sakasakali. Now, if they will recover it, halimbawa ma-recover nila at di bumutok, that's the risk. Problema nila yun. Hindi natin alam kung ano nangyari. Hindi rin namin talaga makikita kung ano yan. But it's part of our responsibility to clear. The assumption sometimes, pag nagpuputo ka na, hindi mo alam kung ilan yung pumutok. Ang hirap ng malaman. Sabay-sabay pumuputok. Really, it's quite difficult. But what we can assure you, right now,
Bilangin.
all our ammunitions are serialized. Kung may makita namin, may mga numbers yan eh. Kung malaman namin sa investigation na galing nga sa amin, ma-check natin. But definitely, accounted lahat ng aming bala. We assure you on that. Kung saan nanggagaling, baka sa ibang lugar nanggagaling, hindi ko masagot ngayon. Still
Okay.
under investigation.
Colonel Arevalo, please.
I think the main point of your question is in that particular blast, where
Yes.
did that round come from? I think that is all part of what being investigated. So until then, we will not be able to really tell. As a matter of fact, you were asking me earlier, where was it placed? Those are all part of the investigation being conducted by the PNP, and they are in the best position to answer that. And as Dr. Cutler was saying, it's not very easy to come by. It would really have to take some time. So we would like to appeal to the patience of the public. Definitely, the investigation is ongoing, and in due time, they'll probably be giving us the information that we needed with regard to that particular issue.
Last, how we are secured now? Anong level?
Nationwide.
Nationwide, particularly Metro Manila, sinandito tayo.
Ganun na.
How secured we are now?
The security is a concern of everybody. Even the spelling of the word security is not complete without you in that security. So everybody should be part of security. It is not the sole responsibility of the armed forces, the PNP, or government to ensure security. As I was saying, vigilance is our first line of defense. That is everybody's concern. It is also our ultimate recourse to attaining a cooperative security, vigilance, active participation. How secured? We are as secured as we are trying our best to be secured. We cannot rely solely on the security forces, as we are not relying security to our people alone. This is a collective effort. Davao has Task Force Davao. It has many other security measures in place. But as you know, there is no impenetrable barrier for a determined criminal or terrorist. He will do all sorts of cunning ways and means in order to perpetrate what they do. So it is up to us to be cooperative, to be vigilant, to be actively participating in all efforts relevant to security. Your soldiers, your police cannot and will never be in every nook and cranny of our cities, Metro Manila even. It is a challenge for us, a spokesperson, to talk about security levels or security climate, because that is not our cup of tea. Our challenge is we cannot say too little in order for people to feel complacent. We cannot say too much by not creating panic or concern or alarm to the people. So what I can say is there are, even without the ongoing operations in Sulu, there is always an opportunity for us, for those who will people bad, to create havoc, panic, and destruction and suffering to our people. But now that we have ongoing operations in Sulu, even the president said it is with more reason that we should be vigilant, because it is not remote. It is not impossible that these people might just do or resort to the visionary tactics. He called even reprisals in the conduct of the operations. So the point is, let us all work together. Let us actively participate, because security is nothing or is incomplete without you.
Yes, Dr. Cutler.
Well, I'll give you an illustration of what I have been telling friends and clients throughout the country and internationally, and that is that we listen to what the United States, the UK, and other embassies have said about not traveling to Mindanao until things have settled down a little bit. Within the other areas of the nation, I have been telling people, go about your normal business, stay alert. I still suggest to people that in a major metro area such as Manila, which has 15 million people in it, I am more worried about street crimes, pickpockets, violent robberies, somebody taking my cell phone as I've got it laid here on the table or something like that, than I am a terrorist bombing. Am I alert to the possibility of a terrorist bombing? Of course I am. Am I alert to the possibility of someone driving by with an AK-47 or an M4 and firing off a few rounds, which they used to do in Makati from time to time? I'm aware of those things, and I want my clients and friends to be aware of those, but I'm not stopping them from going around. Like I say, I am more concerned about just the routine issues of daily life than I am the terrorist events in Metro Manila, Cebu, Baguio, and so on.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I would like to say thank you to the soldiers for giving your life to us. But thank you. Mabuhay po kay lahat.
Salamat po. I heard that the MRT management said they are also on red alert. That's very good. They should watch out for nuts and bolts. Baka lumuwag yung release natin dyan. May problema tayo. Please.
Good morning. I'm Juvie de Guzman of DWBL. I would like to address my question to Colonel Alvarez regarding the
Arevalo.
Arevalo. Correction.
Bigyan kitang gift certificate.
Sorry for that. Thank you very much. I would like to ask about the messages we got from different people regarding the 4 ladies who are ready for a bombing in Metro Manila. How was it? Do you have any idea about these messages and how we can advise people without fearing, getting them so fear about these messages?
Salamat po. Actually, very early this morning, I was being interviewed by Ka Orly
Yeah.
over the radio, and I specifically mentioned that as one of the examples in trying to establish the point that we should not be instrument of sharing and passing around information that has no validation yet. That was part of my statement earlier, that we are asking the people to be when we say that we wish the people to be actively participative in security and reporting what they observe, what they hear to the security forces, we should not be alarmists. We should not be an instrument to sharing this information, especially in social media, because information like that could really cause or trigger panic
Yeah.
to some of our people. That news has been, that report, quote unquote report, has been circulating for, I think, it's a 3rd week now, I think. And it was even the daughter of the chief PNP who allegedly said that she was the one who received that text and passed that around, but it was since then denied by any monitoring of such kind of report was denied by the PNP and also us in the AFP. We have not monitored such kind of information or report yet. But that said, we are not brushing aside news like this
Yeah.
because whether these are true or not, it remains part of the things that we have to look into as part of our overall efforts for security. But be that as it may, let us try to get this information, but do not circulate it in mass media or in social media. Share it to our security forces for them to check, validate, and confirm, and they will just be the one to give information whether this is true or not, because some people could just be fidgety, some people could just be panicky. Any things of reports like this, raw, unvalidated, and rumor as they may seem, may just cause disorder among our people, discomfort at the very least.
Yes. Alam niyo po, natuwa ako dun sa nilabas ni Mayor Duterte, Sara Duterte, regarding the immediate recovering of what happened to the blasting in Davao. Right away, they move on. Hindi nila pinaramdam sa mga tao na wala na kagad. Parang ganon. I think this is one good example
Okay.
to do in our country. Is it possible, sir? Anyone?
Masamang pangitain to.
Hindi, nalaglag lang siya.
Magagalit yung aristocrat sa atin yan.
Well, that act of, I was saying earlier, going back to business as usual is a
Yes.
good sign.
Good sign.
It's a good sign. I was there in the afternoon together, privileged to be there with the chief of staff the afternoon, the day after the bombing. And I even put it up on Twitter that I was glad to see that it's business as usual in Davao City. To say the least, traffic is as vibrant as it was. Buyers and sellers are happily trading in the markets that we have gone past through. These are good indicators. And as a matter of fact, yes, indeed, the local chief executives would like the people to lead the normal lives after this incident because they would not want to give a chance to those who did this to attain their objective, that is to terrorize people. But that said, people of Davao were, of course, more vigilant,
Yes.
more observant, and more active in participating with the security preparations and arrangements to make sure that there will be and there should be no more repeat of similar incidents.
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Cutler?
Yes.
Following on that, I think one of the things that a lesson from this explosion in Davao is for other local government units to say, what if it happens where we are? And can we practice something, a response?
Yes.
Can we get ready? Kind of like what they did after Typhoon Yolanda, is now we practice and say, well, what happens here? For example, in the Metro Manila area, in Makati, Barangay San Lorenzo got the Ayala Center and a number of business leaders and building managers throughout the barangay together as APEC was going to be headquartered to a great extent near Ayala Center. And they worked their way through a number of these issues. What happens if we have an explosion? What happens if we have a shooting? What happens if we have a kidnap attack? What happens if we have an explosion and a kidnap attack? So there's all sorts of things that I think a local government unit will be able to do, and I would encourage the local government units to use what happened in Davao to study it as what I'll call a case study, lessons learned, and then figure out what they could do if something happened there.
Make it a template.
Make it a template.
that's nice,
Because I
yes.
think there were a lot of good things that went on.
Yes.
Anytime we have a response like this, there are going to be things that we say, well, that didn't work out quite as well as we wanted it to. Let's not do that again. So learn those lessons and then figure out so that no matter where it happens, we're better prepared and better able to handle it next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you
and
very much.
hoping our soldiers won't stop in what they're doing in Mindanao. Thank you so much.
All right. Next question. We're running short of time. What's your prediction, Lingoy?
Good morning po. Linggoy of Opinion. And assuming that the prescription period for terrorism is less than 30 years, formerly counterintelligence officer of the April 6 Liberation Movement.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, my question is, does the impact of the bomb, aside from the power of the powder or whatever, also relate or is in proportion to the popularity, in inverse proportion to the popularity or in proportion to the unpopularity of the administration?
Dr. Cutler, I guess you're in the safest side. I wouldn't want to endanger any of the career officers with us today.
If I understood your question, it was, is the power of the explosive in inverse relationship to the popularity or unpopularity of the administration?
Yeah, the impact of
The impact of it. I think in some areas that can be speculated. I think that will be answerable only by the people who open their mouths and talk. And I don't mean to be a smart aleck when I answer that, but I think that will depend on, for example, people in this room, which includes the people here at this table, on how we handle issues and how those issues are reported. I think we've seen times in the past where the impact of any incident, whether that's a natural disaster or a man-made disaster, does increase in value when the person in charge is not very popular.
Second question.
I would venture on answering that, but only insofar as the AFP is concerned. I think it is not fair for us to equate this incident to the popularity or unpopularity of a president or a commander-in-chief. It is as if, we could treat it just like any so-called misfortune that happens in our lives for us to think about it and make good sense out of it. If this at all happened, I believe this is not perpetrated on the political stature of anyone. By all means, the way to look at this is a crime committed against our people. It is an affront to our civil liberties, and we should address this in a manner that we should address these people that are against the peace and security of our people. So, as to whoever perpetrated this, as I was saying earlier, our reaction should be to collectively bond and ensure that this similar incident will not happen again.
Okay?
Second question. Yesterday, I did not spread panic. I did not text blast. But I advised only to close family that if they wanted to go to the mall, go early. So if the mall opens at 10, be there at 10. Number two, what I try to explain to people is that the effect of the blast, meaning say you're getting hit by the blast, is much less than the effect on your heart if you are separated from your loved ones and there is an explosion and it could just be the microphone falling like kanina, no? And because of panic, the cell phones do not work, no? Or, for that matter, the blast may be in a faraway portion of the mall, but you have a bigger chance of getting hurt by a stampede than the blast itself. No? So that is one of the things I try to explain. And finally, is it true that dogs also get tired like human beings when they smell? Meaning to say that if you want to bring a bomb into a enclosed, protected area, you should wait until the security guards and the dogs are already exhausted.
Okay. I was told dogs have only 8 hours or less for effectivity in a day.
First, I'll make sure that I admit that I am not a qualified canine or dog handler. However, from what I have been told and my experience with people who are doing those kinds of jobs, whether the dog is trained, what they call a cadaver dog, trying to find dead bodies, drug dogs, explosive dogs, they can work for a period of time, and I don't know what that exact time is, and then they need to have rest. And that the rest needs to be substantial rest, where they're able to get cool, food, water, and so on. One of the problems that I see in the uses of many dogs, and it's not just the Philippines, is that the people who are in charge of a canine unit, especially in private industry, don't understand the way dogs work, and they think that they are just pets. They're not. They are working animals, and they need to be taken care of. So you raise actually a very, very good point. I extend that or expand that point that we need to have training in how to use the dogs, how to use all animals, but then also our human resources better. We cannot expect good attention spans from people who have been standing on their feet 12 hours, 7 days a week, and are expected to take care of thousands of people very, very quickly. It works. I want to expand it not only into the dogs, but into the humans as well. We've got to learn how to use our human resources better.
Last question.
Okay.
As one of the very few Filipinos charged with wiretapping in the Philippines, and as one of those to whom Agent Doble apologized for wiretapping me, I wonder if you'll answer this question. How many simultaneous telephone, cell phone, or landline connections can the Republic of the Philippines now wiretap? Meaning to say that dati kasi, you get somebody to go up a post and he puts a wiretap. But then you can also pay the PLDT technician to do it inside the exchange. But today we have cell phones. So it's different. So I wonder, can we wiretap 1,000 connections at the same time, simultaneously? Maybe the doctor can guess.
What's fascinating to me about the way the monitoring technology has evolved over the years, the type of question that you're asking is impossible to answer, because it isn't a matter of being able to say, oh, I can put up 1,000 or 2,000, 1,502. It doesn't matter. And one of the reasons why it doesn't matter anymore is that the technology that you're describing and we all picture of someone climbing up a pole and putting alligator clips on a wire doesn't matter anymore. What we have is not only, for example, Colonel, if you don't mind me pointing at your phones or your phones, is on these same phones, we're not only carrying telephone calls, but data. And that's a whole different realm of trying to monitor it. So the question that you're asking is impossible to answer these days.
By the way, as a matter of disclosure only, I was fired 27 years ago as the NTC commissioner for predicting the December 1, 1989 coup.
That was during our time. And you also predicted that explosion, right? Rizal Day bombing. We were together in a program, all right? Yes, please. Go ahead with the question. We still have our part 2 today.
Question is for Pat Santos from Daily Tribune, sir, or AFP and Brent, American Brent. For AFP, sir, can the AFP cope up with the President Duterte's order of crushing or even eliminating the Abu Sayyaf? And how far have we gone fighting?
How far have we gone?
Are we 30%, 20%, or 80%? Or give us a little view of the situation in field and how can you cope up with the President's order? And my second question is, does the U.S. government, do you have an idea if the U.S. government is extending its help, considering Abu Sayyaf has long been there, pestering foreign people, foreign nationals?
Yeah, okay.
Do we have that kind of effort from the military part of the U.S. government?
All right.
First, sir, kayo.
Well, thank you, Pat, for that question. For one, your armed forces is determined to crush the Abu Sayyaf as ordered by our Commander-in-Chief, President Duterte, and as directed by our AP Chief of Staff, General Ricardo Visaya. How are we coping? We are doing the necessary, we are executing the plan that has been laid out for this. And so far, the plan is working very well. There were temporary setbacks that we have experienced in the past, but we're sure able to cope with this. We are aware of the period that the President gave for the armed forces to finish the Abu Sayyaf menace. We are aware of that, and all measures that are necessary to attain this end are already in place. But I would just like to say here that fighting the Abu Sayyaf is not easy. Our enemies, or the enemies of the state, particularly these members of the Abu Sayyaf, have also the capability to fight our soldiers. So it's not going to be easy. And ultimately, I would like to say that defeating the Abu Sayyaf group cannot be done by the armed forces alone. Your security forces is at the forefront of the fight against Abu Sayyaf, but in the end, defeating the Abu Sayyaf would take a whole-of-nation approach. And when I say a whole-of-nation approach, this would also involve local government units in the area to help us address whatever or what still are the root causes why the Abu Sayyaf continue to exist up to now. Our good colleague earlier said that wars are not won by bullets or armaments alone. We subscribe to it. That's why we say that we also need the help of the local communities, the local chief executives, in order for us to defeat or eliminate the Abu Sayyaf menace.
Dr. Cutler?
I am not connected with the United States government and haven't been for several years, but I can say that the United States government, the British, especially the Australian government and others, do work very closely with the armed forces of the Philippines, the Philippine National Police, and all parts of the Philippine government to try to address these issues. We want to have the United States and these other countries wants to have a strong and vibrant Philippines that is a good trade partner where its people can come, do business, vacation safely, and where the people of the Philippines can be safe as well. That extends not only into national security issues such as bombings and shootings and so on, but as far as the humanitarian and disaster response and just infrastructure as well. Japan has been great on doing infrastructure projects. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Benji?
Quickly, tatagalogin ko lang ng Army version ng sagot. How far are we now? As far as I'm concerned, I've been in the service for 26 years sa Army. This is the first time na ganito karaming puwersa na dinala namin sa Sulu. 7,000 doon naglalaro. Hindi mo ba seryoso yun? And sa dami ng dinadala namin doon, yung pagiging seryoso namin doon sa mission na to, napakarami rin kami sundalong excited din eh. Dati, when I was young sa service, if you're going there, di ba? Hulo, tatatag. Ngayon, hindi. Excited pa yung iba, mababasa siya sa Facebook. Excited pa yung iba, though bawal sa amin yung mag-express ng opinion sa Facebook. But again, ilang percent na? Hindi namin masabi sa'yo kung ilang percent na eh. Pero kung kailangan dagdagan at sabihin sa amin ng Pangulo na dagdagan pa, we will. Kung ano instruction sa amin. But we're excited. This is the first time again, as I'm telling you. Matagal na rin ako. I was still a lieutenant. Ngayon ko lang nakita na ganito karami. Hindi ko naabutan yung martial law kasi. Pasensya na.
Okay.
Ganito
No problem.
karami ang dinala namin.
Ako pa tinignan eh. No?
Therefore, talagang seryoso kami dito. It's not only military. Believe it or not, there are other institution helping us here.
Dagdagan ko lang, marunong ding magtagalog yung Marines. Oh. Ini-English ko lang because, thank you, Mr. for reminding me that. Ini-English ko lang because some of our members of media here might have international clientele. But I had my baptism of fire as a Marine in Basilan. So kami actually ang unang nakabangga ng Abu Sayyaf way back in 1991. At kung nagpapatuloy man ito, it is all because of many other factors. Many other factors. But dadagdagan ko lang yung sinabi ng classmate ko si Colonel Howe. marami pa tayong effort ngayon that would show the resolve of our government para tapusin ang problemang hatid ng Abu Sayyaf Group. Nabalitaan nyo marahil na ilang araw lamang ang nakakalipas na dahil sa bisa ng isang Memorandum of Understanding sa pagitan ng Armed Forces, Department of National Defense, Marina, DOTR, and other agencies of government, nakahuli tayo ng 3 speedboats sa Sulu that have expired papers. Because of this deputation sa Armed Forces, nagkaroon tayo ng kapangyarihan upang hulihin ang mga speedboats na walang kaukulang papeles. Sirain ang mga pantalan o makeshift pier na ginagamit ng mga bandidong grupo o iba pang grupong kriminal sa kanilang mga gawain upang higit nating mapalakas ang ating mitiin at ang ating pagsisikap na tapusin ang problemang dulot ng Abu Sayyaf. Marami pa po tayong mga efforts, hindi lamang po sa larangan ng bakbakan o labanan ang efforts ng inyong armed forces. Ang AFP po ay may mga iba pang ginagawa other the combat operations as a line of operation. Kasama na po dyan na Melo ang ating mga efforts sa pagtulong sa mga local government na sila ay empower further sa pamamagitan ng pagtulong upang ang mga basic services na dinadaing ng mga mamamayan ng Sulu na hindi nakararating sa kanila ay matulungan ng AFP na makarating sa pamamagitan ng pagtulong to strengthen local government. Because that is a local government problem. We are just helping. Sa larangan naman po ng pagtulong upang ang ating mga youth leaders, youth Muslim leaders in Sulu, ay mapakitaan natin ng magandang buhay na hindi lamang ang buhay ay nag-uumpisa at nagtatapos sa dalampasigan ng Sulu. Gusto nating ipakita sa kanila that there is also life outside the shores of Sulu. As a matter of fact, we are bringing youth leaders from Sulu to other parts of the country for them to witness that there is progress, that there is hope that they will be able to experience if they will only be law-abiding citizens, if they'll focus with their studies, if they will be a responsible member of the community. And last na lang, if I may tell you, parte po ng plano ng ating Chief of Staff, General Ricardo Visaya, to bring these youth leaders in other Muslim countries like Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Inaayos po natin ang programang ito because we would like our youth leaders to see that other Muslim countries abroad are prosperous, are peaceful, but they
follow the law.
They follow the law and they are part of a responsible community.
Okay.
So, sa pamamagitan nito, gusto nating ipakita na marami tayong ginagawa, not purely combat operations, in order for us to attain this objective of defeating the Abu Sayyaf menace.
Pahabol mo?
Sir, last na lang, sir. Ito, matagal ko nang inaano sa isip
Sige,
ko.
sige,
to, eh.
sige, sige. Labas mo na.
Sir, bata pa ako, narinig ko na yung patikol. Ano ba yung meron dyan sa patikol? Bakit ang daming pinatay na dyan, yung mga general ng previous, yung during martial law, wala pa
Anong
si Sir,
meron?
ano? Ano meron sa patikol? Ang dami diyang namatay na mga great soldiers, mga well-decorated soldiers natin. What's there in patikol?
Ang patikol po sa Sulu ay isa sa pinaka-mahirap ang terrain, pinaka-difficult ang vegetation po dyan. At nandyan po yung sinasabi nilang stronghold ng kinikilala pa rin nilang pinuno ng Abu Sayyaf ngayon na si Redulan sa Hiron.
All right. With that, we bring to a close the first part of our Tapatan sa Aristocrat. Matapos yung bomba, sunog naman ang pag-uusapan natin. Gaano kalaki na ang nasunog? Dahilan sa traffic. Kaya pag-uusapan natin yan. I'd like to thank our gentlemen who took time out to be with us on short notice. So, thank you very much. Until next time, until better time.